John, a man stepping into his 40s, always believed his life was a perfect picture. He had a happy family, a stable career, and a love that started in high school with his beloved wife, Sarah. They were an admired couple, close friends, and now the parents of three beautiful daughters, Emily, 15, Chloe, 13, and Lily, 11. Their home, nestled in a quiet residential area on the outskirts of the city, was always filled with laughter and love. John worked in a tech company, as a project manager. He was a calm, responsible man who always gave his best at work and for his family. He loved weekend evenings spent with his family, watching movies, playing games, or simply chatting together. For John, happiness was in the simple, peaceful moments with his loved ones. Sarah, at 39, was a dynamic, intelligent woman who was always attentive to her family. She worked at a real estate company, where she displayed her excellent communication skills and negotiation abilities. Sarah was always a great source of encouragement for John, supporting him in all his decisions and always being a wonderful companion in life. She enjoyed family trips, exploring new lands and enjoying exciting experiences. Their three daughters, each with a unique personality, were all well-behaved, adorable, and always loving to their family. Emily, the eldest, was a quiet girl who loved to read and had an artistic talent. Chloe, the second, was an active girl who loved sports and had many friends. Lily, the youngest, was a mischievous girl who loved to explore the world and always brought joy to everyone. John's life went on smoothly like this until one fateful Tuesday morning. After breakfast and taking the children to school, Sarah told John she had an important meeting at work and would be home later than usual. John nodded, without the slightest suspicion. He kissed Sarah on the forehead, then went to work as usual. But that evening, Sarah did not come home. John called her, but no one answered. He texted her, but there was no reply. Anxiety began to take root in his heart. John thought that Sarah might be busy, or her phone battery might be dead. He tried to reassure himself and waited. By late night, Sarah still had not come home. John began to feel uneasy. He called Sarah's parents, but they said they did not know where she was. He called her friends and colleagues, but no one had been able to contact Sarah. John began to feel afraid. Something was wrong, a cold feeling invaded his heart. He could not understand what was happening. The shattered truth. That night, John could not sleep. He tossed and turned, thinking about the worst things that could happen. He worried about Sarah's safety, but he also could not dismiss the doubts that were creeping into his mind. Could it be that there was something he did not know? Could it be that Sarah was hiding something from him? The next morning, John decided to go to Sarah's workplace to find her. He asked Sarah's colleagues, but no one had seen her since yesterday. One colleague said that Sarah had seemed very stressed that morning and had left the company at noon without saying anything to anyone. John felt like he was falling into an abyss. He decided to call the police, and after explaining the situation, the police conducted a welfare check on Sarah. John was informed that Sarah was at her parents' house, but she did not want to see anyone. This truth only made John feel more confused and angry. Why had Sarah left? Why didn't she want to contact him? And what was going on? After several days of living in anxiety and unease, John decided to call Sarah's father, and requested a face-to-face meeting. He agreed and scheduled John to come to the house in the afternoon. Here, Sarah's father revealed a shocking truth to John. Sarah had been having an affair for the past 2 years, and her lover had just died of a heart attack. John was stunned. He could not believe what he had just heard. Sarah, the wife he loved, the partner he trusted the most, had betrayed him so cruelly. He felt like his whole world was collapsing. He felt hurt, angry, and despairing. He returned home in a state of turmoil. He did not know what to do, what to say to his children. He felt ashamed, humiliated, and completely disoriented. He tried to stay calm, but his emotions kept surging like ocean waves. He could not believe that the perfect life he had once had was now just a pile of rubble. That night, John could not sleep again. He kept tossing and turning, thinking about Sarah's betrayal, about the happy years together that he now felt were a lie. He felt like all he had cherished had been stolen. He felt like he had been betrayed not only by Sarah but also by life itself. A whirlwind of emotions. In the days that followed, John lived in a painful whirlwind of emotions. He could not focus on work, he could not eat, and he could not sleep. He kept wallowing in negative thoughts, unanswered questions, and pains that would not subside. His anger surged every time he thought of Sarah's betrayal. He felt insulted, disrespected, and robbed of everything he had. He wanted revenge, he wanted to make Sarah pay for what she had done. But he also knew that anger would not solve anything. His pain struck him again every time he thought of the happy years with Sarah. He remembered the beautiful memories, the smiles, and the warm hugs. He wondered, were all those things just fake? Did Sarah never love him? And why would she do this to him? Despair engulfed John every time he thought about the future. He did not know what he would do next, he did not know who he could trust anymore, and he did not know if he could find happiness again. He felt like he was standing before a dead end, a future that was dark and uncertain. John also felt guilty every time he looked at his children. He knew that the breakdown of their marriage would greatly affect them, and he felt responsible for protecting them. He tried to hide his pain, trying to appear strong in front of his children, but he knew that it was very difficult. He had once read that when you are sad, you should write down all your thoughts, and sometimes you will feel better. So every night when he couldn't sleep, John took out his journal and wrote down all his negative feelings and confused thoughts. Sometimes it helped him feel a little better, sometimes it made things worse, he didn't know anymore. But he felt that he needed to do something, rather than just wallow in these emotions. John began to seek help from friends and family. He told them about what he had been through, he shared with them his pains and his worries. He received sympathy, comfort, and helpful advice. He began to realize that he was not alone, and that there were still people who cared about him. He also started looking for support on social media and online forums. He read the stories of people in similar situations, and he felt somewhat comforted. He realized that he was not the only one who was suffering this pain, and that there were still people who understood what he was going through. John gradually realized that he could not continue to wallow in misery. He needed to stand up, he needed to get through this, and he needed to find himself again. He knew that the road ahead was long, and that there would be many difficulties, but he was determined not to give up. Facing the truth. After many days of thinking, John decided that he could not continue to live in lies and pretense. He wanted to face the truth, he wanted to know why Sarah did this to him, and he wanted to hear an explanation from her own mouth. He called Sarah and requested a face-to-face meeting. Sarah initially refused, but then she agreed. They arranged to meet at a small cafe in the city center. John arrived early, he sat in a corner, trying to keep calm and prepare himself for the difficult conversation ahead. Sarah arrived later, she looked tired and sad. She did not dare look John directly in the eyes. They sat in silence for a while, neither of them speaking. The tension in the air was palpable. Finally, John spoke. "Why?" he asked, his voice trembling. "Why did you do this to me? Why did you betray me? Why did you hurt our whole family?" Sarah was silent for a moment, then she began to speak. She talked about the boredom in their marriage, about the emotional deprivation, and about the attraction of another man. She talked about secret meetings, late-night conversations, and stolen kisses. She talked about the temporary satisfaction, and the pangs of conscience. John listened to Sarah's story, his heart aching. He felt as if every word was a knife stabbing into his heart. He could not understand why someone he had once loved and trusted the most could do such cruel things. "I want to hear everything," John said, his voice firm. "I want to know every detail, I want to know all the truth. I don't want to live in lies anymore." Sarah continued. She talked about her relationship with her lover, about the promises, the dreams, and the illusions. She talked about her lover's sudden death, and about her belated regret. She talked about everything she had hidden from John for the past 2 years. John listened to Sarah's story. He felt like he was falling into a bottomless abyss. He could not understand why Sarah could lie to him so blatantly. He could not believe that the marriage he had once cherished was now just a mess. "Do you love me?" John asked, his voice getting smaller. Sarah was silent for a moment, then she replied, "I don't know." Sarah's answer was like the final knife stabbing into John's heart. He felt like all hope had vanished, all faith shattered. He could not believe that the woman he had once loved was now so distant. An unusual agreement. After the painful conversation, John decided that he would not let Sarah continue to lie to him and their children. He wanted the truth, and he wanted Sarah to take responsibility for what she had done. He made an unusual agreement, but he believed that it was the only way for him to deal with this situation. "You want to come home," John said, his voice cold. "But I will not accept you back so easily. I want you to tell me the whole truth about your relationship, from beginning to end. I want you to look me in the eyes, and I want you to answer all my questions. If you can do that, then I will consider giving you a chance to come back." Sarah agreed to John's agreement. She knew that she had caused too much pain to him and their children, and she wanted to do everything she could to correct her mistakes. She promised that she would tell John all the truth, without hiding anything, without lying. They began long conversations where Sarah had to recount every detail of her affair. John listened, he asked questions, and he tried to understand why Sarah could do such a thing. He did not try to get revenge, he just wanted to understand, so that he could accept it, and so that he could move forward. During the conversation, John discovered that Sarah's relationship with her lover was not only about physical satisfaction, but also a search for empathy and attention. Sarah felt lonely in her marriage, and she had turned to someone else to fill the emptiness in her heart. John also realized that he had been too busy with work and the worries of life, that he had forgotten to pay attention to Sarah's feelings. He had not spent enough time with her, he had not listened to her thoughts, and he had not shown her enough love. But the truth still could not change Sarah's betrayal, nor could it soothe John's pain. He still felt hurt, betrayed, and deceived. He still could not forget what Sarah had done, and he did not know if he could ever forgive her. During this time, John wrote a lot. His journal pages grew longer every day, recording all that he had gone through, and also his thoughts during the whole time. He found that writing was a very good way to release his emotions, and it helped him feel much better. So, he wrote Sarah a letter, saying everything that he had thought, he had gone through, and he had felt during the whole time. The letter was not to blame, but to share, to release, and also so he could understand himself better. He hoped Sarah could read it, and hoped it would help her understand more about what she had done. The brutal truth. After a long period of thought, John decided that he would give Sarah a chance to come back, but he would not let her come back easily. He set the conditions, and he required Sarah to meet all those conditions. First, Sarah had to tell the whole truth about her affair, from beginning to end, without hiding anything, without lying. She had to look John in the eyes, and she had to answer all his questions. Second, Sarah had to apologize to the children, and she had to explain to them about what she had done. Third, Sarah had to attend psychological therapy, so that she could solve her problems, and so that she could prevent similar mistakes in the future. Sarah agreed to all of John's conditions. She knew that she had caused so much pain to the family, and she wanted to do everything she could to correct her mistakes. She promised that she would tell John the whole truth, she would apologize to the children, and she would attend psychological therapy. Sarah returned home, but she was not welcomed warmly. John kept his distance from her, and the children were cold. Sarah felt lonely and lost in her own home. She knew that she had to pay the price for what she had done. John watched Sarah, he saw her trying very hard to make up for her mistakes. But he could not forget her betrayal, and he could not trust her again. He felt like he was in a battle between reason and heart, a battle he did not know if he would win or lose. Sarah began long conversations with John. She recounted all the truth about her affair, without hiding anything, without lying. John listened, he asked questions, and he tried to understand, but he could not overcome the pain and anger in his heart. Sarah also apologized to the children, and she explained to them about what she had done. The children were all very sad and disappointed. They felt betrayed by the mother they loved the most. John felt very sad seeing his children like this. He knew that the breakdown would affect their futures. John realized that, even though Sarah had done a lot to correct her mistakes, the wound in his heart was still too big. He could not forgive her, and he could not continue to live in a marriage without love and trust. He decided that he would divorce her. The decision to divorce. John informed Sarah of his decision to divorce. Sarah did not object. She knew that she had caused too much pain to John, and she had no right to ask him to forgive her. She accepted the divorce decision, and she promised that she would not make things difficult for him during the divorce process. The divorce process went quickly and without much dispute. John and Sarah agreed on the division of assets and child custody. The children stayed with John, and Sarah had the right to visit them. John felt relieved when the divorce process ended. He felt like he had freed himself from a burden. But even though divorced, John could not forget what Sarah had done. He still felt hurt, angry, and disappointed. He still could not believe that the woman he had once loved the most could hurt him so cruelly. He started a new life, a life without Sarah by his side. He focused on his work, he spent time with his children, and he tried to rebuild his life. He participated in social activities, he looked for new hobbies, and he tried to open up to new relationships. But even though he had tried so hard, he still felt lonely and empty. He still remembered Sarah, remembered the beautiful memories, and he still wondered if he could ever find happiness again. He understood that his wounds needed time to heal, and that he needed to be patient and keep trying. He continued to write in his journal, and he realized that writing helped him release negative emotions and also helped him understand himself better. He wrote about what he had been through, what he had learned, and what he wanted in the future. He wrote about his new life, about the difficulties, and about his hopes. John knew that life was not a perfect picture, but a journey full of trials. But he also knew that he had the strength to overcome everything, and that he could find happiness, no matter where or when. Finding himself again. After the divorce, John started the journey of finding himself again. He knew that he could not continue to dwell in the past. He needed to move on. He needed to find happiness again. He started participating in sports. He worked out at the gym, he went jogging, and he participated in sports tournaments. He felt healthier, and he felt more energetic. He also started paying more attention to himself. He ate well, he slept enough, and he spent time relaxing. He realized that he had been too busy with work and family, that he had forgotten to take care of himself. He knew that he needed to love himself before he could love others. John also started spending more time with his children. He participated in their school activities, he took them out on weekends, and he tried to listen to their thoughts. He wanted to compensate for what they had suffered during the past time, and he wanted to build a strong relationship with them. John also started looking for new hobbies. He learned to play the guitar, he learned to draw, and he attended cooking classes. He realized that there were many interesting things in life, and that he needed to discover those things. He began to open up to new relationships, he met new friends, and he participated in social activities. But even though he had done so much to change his life, he still could not forget Sarah. He still remembered the beautiful memories, and he still wondered if she was happy. He knew that he needed to let go of the past, and he needed to forgive Sarah, not for her, but for himself. He also realized that he had learned a lot from what he had been through. He had learned patience, strength, and forgiveness. He had learned how to love himself more, and he had learned how to appreciate what he had. He felt like he had grown up, and he felt stronger. John realized that life was an endless journey, and that there would always be challenges and difficulties. But he also believed that he had the strength to overcome everything, and that he could create a better life for himself and for his children. He no longer resented Sarah, he only felt sad for what had happened, but he did not want to prolong the pain anymore. He wanted to move on, and to find a new happiness for himself. Letting go and forgiving. One day, John received a text message from Sarah. She wanted to meet him. She said that she had something she wanted to say to him. John agreed to meet Sarah. He did not know what she wanted to say, but he was no longer afraid or angry. He felt calm and ready to listen. They met at a small park, where they had once had many beautiful memories. Sarah still looked tired and sad, but she seemed much calmer. She said that she wanted to apologize to John again, for all that she had done. She said that she was very sorry for hurting him and their children, and that she hoped he would forgive her. John listened to Sarah talk. He did not interrupt her. He felt that she was speaking sincerely, and that she had truly regretted what she had done. He also realized that he had forgiven her a long time ago, even though he had never said it. He just wanted peace. He did not want to continue living in hatred and pain anymore. He replied, "I have forgiven you, Sarah. Not for you, but for me. I do not want to continue living in the past anymore. I want to look to the future. I hope that you will also find peace and happiness for yourself." Sarah burst into tears. She said that she was very grateful to John for forgiving her. She said that she would never forget what she had done, and that she would try to live better in the future. They parted peacefully, with no more hatred, no more pain. John went home. He felt much lighter. He realized that forgiving does not mean forgetting, but letting go of the past and moving forward into the future. He no longer resented Sarah. He only hoped that she would have a better life. He realized that he had grown up a lot, and that he had found himself again. New happiness. John started a new life, a life filled with joy and happiness. He no longer lived in the past. He only focused on the present and the future. He spent time on his work, he cared for his children, and he sought out the interesting things in life. He met a good woman, a woman who understood him, cared for him, and loved him sincerely. She was an independent, strong woman with a kind heart. They shared each other's joys and sorrows. They built a solid and lasting relationship together. John's children also loved his new woman very much. They saw her as a friend, a sister, and a mother. They felt happy seeing their father have a new life, and they also felt loved and cared for more. John realized that, after all that he had been through, he had found true happiness. Happiness is not a perfect picture, but a journey full of challenges and difficulties. But he believed that he had the strength to overcome everything, and that he could create a better life for himself and for those he loved. He continued to write in his journal. He wrote about what he had been through, what he had learned, and what he wanted in the future. He wrote about his new life, about his joys, and about his hopes. He knew that the past was a part of him, but it was not everything. He wanted to look to the future, and he wanted to live a meaningful and fulfilling life. John's life was now filled with laughter, love, and happiness. He had overcome his difficulties. He had forgiven those who had hurt him, and he had found peace in his soul. He knew that life still had many interesting things waiting for him in the future, and he would continue his journey, with a heart full of hope and an optimistic spirit.